I do a weekly call with my community, and we always start off the call kind of just sharing what we've been dealing with or wrestling with. And when it was my turn to share this past week, I was telling them that I was having second thoughts about doing the bankrupt millionaire. And I told them it was because, you know, the bankrupt millionaire was something that came to me during a time of transition. And what I did not want the bankrupt millionaire to be was another, not just another sex podcast. I didn't want it to be like anything else that I had created from ego or the past or trauma. I didn't want it to be so personal that the show or my stories could become a distraction from how spirit or God wants to use me or use my voice. I feel like there are things I'm supposed to say that could really help others, but you know, as I got closer to the release of the podcast, like it's a week past when I said I was going to release it, which is odd because I have over 30 episodes recorded. Um, it's odd because I've waited at least 6 months for this show to come out because, I'm learning from my past mistakes of putting out too many things close to each other without like really giving it time to see if this aligns, if it fits. I'm gonna move this. I just want to make sure. Right. Um, it's odd because I've given it time. I've sat with this. Like it's been 6 months. I'm not doing this all willy nilly or just because I got a good idea or anything like that. But I'm at a point where not that I don't want to make mistakes, but I want to be sure. And I can acknowledge that I feel very strongly about everything. Nothing is little to me. Everything seems like a sign. Like I find so much meaning in so many different things. But this show is not supposed to be about me. It's supposed to be about what I'm offering. And just honestly, I've started the van vlog, and even that takes a lot of energy. I'm enjoying that, but the bankrupt millionaire is supposed to be a low effort offering, but low effort does not mean bad quality, right? And so I just want to be sure that if I'm offering something, I'm not offering something because I want it to be out there, but because it's needed. Because the last thing I want to do is pick up another project that no one asked me for, right? And when I say no one asked me for, I mean like, did God tell you to do this or did you tell you to do this? And the closer it got to this release date, I just wasn't sure. I wasn't sure. Um, and so I told them that I had recently started a fast, and I'm big on fasting. I think that it gives you the clarity that you need. And when it was time for me to end the content house and not just another sex podcast in 2024, that got sparked from a fast. I had did a physical fast from food for 3 days. I just did a water fast for 3 days. And it gave me all the clarity that I needed to know because I needed to rid myself of the physical distractions. And when we need a reset, going without physical things, yes, it's uncomfortable, but it also is the quickest and easiest way to get clarity from all the physical distractions. The fast that I'm on currently, though, is not a food fast. I was telling them that I wanted to do a food fast, but I didn't feel that that was really the problem I was having right now. If anything, I'm probably in some of the best shape that I've been in a long time. But I felt like internal distractions are a real thing. And so I was on a 3-day no complaining challenge, fast, whatever. And through that, I've realized so many things are complaining. We might not call them complaining, but they are complaining, such as worrying, right? And I tell them all the time that my son, anytime that he is scolded or has to be taught a lesson, I always see how God is talking directly to me, right? And recently we were at the skating rink and I had already bought his ticket. They had like this thing where like if you read their new newsletter, you get free entry and you get a free icy. We always get the ices, and so I did it so that way Trey could have one because I knew he would ask me for an icy. When we got there, not even 10 minutes later, he had asked if he could have an icy. Now, yes, I had already got him one, but one, I did not tell him, and two, I wanted to work with him on every time we go somewhere, something that I'm already paying for us to get in or do something or activity, he's always asking for something else, like immediately. Like he doesn't even enjoy the thing that we're there to do before he's asking. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I totally understand it, but we are also working on it, right? And so I told him, hey, we just got here. Give me a minute. Let me think about it. Okay. He says, okay. He comes back 20 minutes later and he's like, can I get an icy? And I said, Trey, you're asking me again. I said, I didn't say no, but I'm telling you, let me think about it. Give me a moment, okay? And he says, okay. So on Sundays, the skating rink closes at 4. At 3:30, he says, well, I'm ready to go. Now, my son knows me, and whenever we do get ices, when I get mine, I get it right before we're about to leave. If he gets one, he usually just get it whenever he wants it. And so he says, well, I'm ready to go. I said, well, the skating rink closes in 30 minutes. We'll leave in 30 minutes. He sits down. He's not skating. When I tell him that, he's like, okay. And so some good songs come on, everything. He keeps skating. He having fun, whatever. But I know that he only said that he was ready to go because he wanted to know, are we getting ices? And he would know when it was time to go because that's when we would get them, right? And so it's 10 minutes before it's time to go. And he comes up to me. He says, Mommy, I just want to let you know that the convenience stand closes when the skating rink closes. And I said, Trey, like, you're subtly reminding me about the icy again. Stop, And so you could tell he's pouting about it. He doesn't want to skate. He asked me to record a skate trick for him. He barely does it because he's like so distracted and, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get an icy, right? And so at the end of the skating thing, I go get the icy. We get in the van and he's like, is that mine? I said, no. I said it was, but it's not. And so I explained to him that before we got there, I showed him the ticket. I said, you see, this icy was already paid for when you got in. It came with your ticket. I said, but you were so distracted and so distraught from something that I already have for you because you would not respect giving me a moment. I said, to the point that you came up to me 4 different times, right? And so I say all that to say, how many times do we do that? How many times do we ask God for the same thing without anything changing, without like going about our business? We ask more than once. Like, how many times do you go, look for a sermon talking about what you're talking about? How many times do you go look for a tarot reading that's talking about what you're talking about? Like, how many times do you reword the question and ask the same thing over and over and over and over and over? But you haven't used what you have access to. Or you haven't done what you originally said you wanted to do. Trey said he wanted to go skating. I did take you skating, but you're so distracted that you don't even want to skate because you're trying to figure out, am I going to get XYZ? And I took that moment to self-reflect and say, you keep asking God about the bankrupt millionaire. You keep asking, man, am I supposed to do this? Because you don't want to do the wrong thing. You don't want to mislead anybody else. Not because failing is bad, but because I can admit that in the endings that have just happened, they could have been done better, or it didn't feel good that those endings came about because I did not have clarity or because I was distracted by so many things. They weren't just endings. They were endings that yes, they were supposed to happen. And yes, I learned what I was supposed to learn. That's wisdom, right? But there has to be a level of accountability to say that, okay, on what part was I negligent, right? And so when that conviction comes up, you want to do something differently, right? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with me expressing that that's difficult. However, what was the purpose of the van, right? I love this van. When I originally bought it, like, let's go back to the beginning. When I bought this van, what did I buy it for? I bought it so I could have a beautiful place to work and travel around so I could write a book. I was traveling like crazy at that time. I was flying a lot. I wasn't getting a lot of writing done because I was always on the go. And airports is not where I do my best work. Nature is where I do my best work. I've always wanted the RV. I'm going to buy the RV. I'm going to write a book. And I'm going to travel around and write my book. Now, God, the universe, is a bad bitch that loves some feed-in braids. I've talked about this before. It doesn't take a lot. God don't need me to sit down with a pen and start writing this novel, right? Even though I have started, right? But I've gotten so distracted that it's like, why did you want to do the van vlog? Or why did you even want to get the van? Not even talking about the work. Why did you want to get the van, right? Okay, you're doing the van vlog, but have you written? Okay. Why do you want to do the bankrupt millionaire? I understand you don't want to distract people with your personal problems or use this as a dumping ground for like, oh, this is what happened and this is how I lost all this money. It's all very judgmental, right? Like, let's just make it a little more concise. Have you written anything? And my answer was no, I haven't written anything. And so I said, you know what? I know I don't want this show, like, I don't want the show to be so structural. Like, you guys will see, there will be no segments. There will be, like, when I was discussing this, when I was talking about it, I wanted it to be effortless effort. It doesn't mean it's supposed to be bad, but it's supposed to be something that I can sustain. Because what did I learn from the past? I mean, that's what the Bankrupt Millionaire is about, right? What have I learned from these 9 lives I have lived? Because if you know anything about me, you know I have so many stories. It's like I'm 54 in a 33-year-old's body. Like, literally. And that's what it was supposed to be about. It was about giving the information, but also without confusing people. Like, I didn't want to do that. And so I'm just like, what? God, what do you want me to do? God, what do you want me to do? But I'm on this no complaining challenge. And so what that taught me was, you already asked about this, stop asking about it. What are you going to do about it with what you have? So I said, you know what? I'm going to write it. I said, I'm going to write down my thoughts. I'll type it up in a letter to myself. Whatever comes out, because sometimes I can't record. Like, there are certain, like I said, effortless effort, but not shitty. You know what I'm saying? Like, do I have a full set right now? No, but this is a little aesthetic. It's cute. It's consistent. You know, the van is my workplace. Sometimes I get messages in the middle of the night. I'm looking crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes I'm in a parking lot and it's way too loud or it's too many people going on. What do I always have access to? Writing. You know what I'm saying? So I said, you know what I'll do is I'll try this. I'm asking God, please send me a sign. Let me know what I should do, if I should do this, right? And I let it go. So I said, I'm going to try that and see where it goes. That was me sharing story time with the 2 ladies that were on the phone this week. And we usually have more people than that in our weekly call, but it was only 2 people on this call. All right. So that is the first part. What I'm talking to you guys today is going to be about how God gave me the answer about if I should do the Bankrupt Millionaire. Okay. My goal is not to confuse anyone. So there's that. With that being said, when we got started on, after I shared my part, the 2 young ladies both shared theirs. I got their permission to share this. So what I did was I took their 2 feedbacks and I summarized it, ran it through ChatGPT, and had it read it back to me as an advice letter. So that way you guys can understand the dilemma they were met with. So person A shared first, and her situation is as follows. I've recently cut off all contact with a toxic ex, and I have been doing my best to move forward. But something happened that's left me feeling stressed and unsure of what to do. A mutual acquaintance came to me asking if it was okay for them to still communicate with my ex. I told them I didn't care, but the conversation kept going and we ended up diving into details about the situation. The next day, like I predicted, my ex reached out. I had a feeling the mutual probably brought up our conversation to him. He texted me saying, "Can I talk to you, please?" I replied, "Yeah, fine. We can talk. I'm available tomorrow." Honestly, I only agreed because I knew he wasn't going to follow through, and I felt like it would prove my point. Sure enough, he never called. But then, in true toxic fashion, he pulled one of his old moves and randomly showed up at my job. Thankfully, I wasn't there. Still, the fact that he keeps crossing boundaries is really starting to wear on me. I don't know what to do anymore. He just keeps doing this. I've tried to stay firm, but now I'm just feeling stressed and overwhelmed. And when she shared this, and mind you, we've been on these calls for weeks, so we understand that the story developed into this over time, right? So when she shared this, I got quiet. I got very quiet. And she was like, she broke the ice and she was like, "Samaya, just say it." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Just say it." And I said, I'm really trying to be more conscious of what I say when I say it. And I said, I'm not judging you or anything like that. I said, but, in the past, just the situation I've been in, I don't want to offer unsolicited advice or try to fix people's problems for them or any of those things. And she was like, "Girl, just say it." She's like, "Tell me the thing that don't nobody else want to say, please." First of all, that moment right there was very validating to me. And we're going to come back to that later, because my internal issue was that I was dealing with feeling like I had offered too much in the past. Like that's what keeps coming up. I kept offering things that nobody asked for. And in that moment, she made it clear right then, I am asking you to help me. I want the help, right? And so that changes things, right? Now, y'all know I gave her an answer. I'm going to give it to you right now. And I told her, I said, first and foremost, how did he text you? I said, didn't you block him weeks ago? Like I said, y'all, we meet every week. So I remember everybody's telling us what's going on with them week after week, but I remember the previous weeks. Like I know my community, right? I said, how did he even get through? Didn't you have the number blocked? I said, did he text you from another number? I said, but also you replied yes. So you knew it was him when he texted you. And she was like, yeah. I said, you want the attention. You want the validation. And she got quiet. I said, this is what he does. He's not doing nothing that he doesn't already normally do. I said, so I have a few issues. I said, first and foremost, the mutual that came and asked you, once they asked you about it, you didn't put the conversation to rest. You kept talking about something that you've already talked about. And I said, I just talked to you about, and not that she knew this, I said, but what did I just say about the no complaining challenge? Repeating ourselves is a form of complaining. Is it the exact same thing? No, but it has the same energetic feel. I said, so you knew when you was talking about him, that gossip, you know what I'm saying? Because that's what it is. It's a little bit of gossip. It falls in the same category of complaining. Excuses, worrying, gossip, repeating yourself. All of it is complaining. It's complaining because it's not actually doing anything to change the situation. And I said, the truth is that you want to know if you still have him clocked. So, and I told her, I said, your life is changing rapidly. I said, you're going through so many amazing changes. I said, but I bet you're alone much more than you were before, because you have a set life in what you were doing, and you had already made a set life without him. I said, but now things are starting to change, and there's probably a lot more solitude, and you might feel like you are on no one's radar. I said, so even engaging in that conversation with that mutual, the fact that you knew he would hit you up from that and you didn't say, hey, I don't care if you hit him up, but please do not bring me up in conversation. You weren't standing on business. I said, and even you responding to him was playing the game. At the end of the day, he just wants attention. He just wants attention, and you're giving it to him. Why are you giving it to him? Because you want the validation. So what is it? Why do you need to know that this toxic man has you on his mind when you already know that? Why do you even care? The fact is that you still care. Let's talk about it. What are you scared that no one else is going to come along and want you without it having to be crazy? Because this is the thing. You keep saying, well, I only talked to him for a few minutes. Baby girl, do you remember in the 90s, early 2000s, when your parents would find out that you answered a collect call? I don't know about y'all, but I'm from St. Louis. You ain't never had a boo that was ever in jail and you answered that collect phone call. I can't relate, but I have. In the past, I have answered a call. And you know what I got? A call from the parentals. Baby girl, these 3 minutes, I only stayed on the phone for 3 minutes. When they $100 a minute, it matters. So you telling me I only talked to him for a little bit. How much did it cost you? How much did talking to him for them 3 minutes cost you? And it's not to say you can't backtrack or renege, but slowly and surely you've been letting him back in because one, he was blocked. Now he not blocked. So at some point down the line a few weeks ago, you unblocked him. You made an opening. You made an opening and he took it. And you knew you were giving him an opening to take it. And you're using the excuse of anger to act like you did not give him. You left the door unlocked. You left the door unlocked for somebody that you know has not changed. So my question is not, you already know that you did that shit. You're confused on why you're doing it because you're not okay. You're not okay. You're dealing with this. And it's okay to not be okay, for sure. But you're not on a different level. You're still there with him. You keep saying, well, I didn't talk to him. I didn't do this, da, 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 da. And I'm not blaming her, y'all. Like I said, this was I understood what she was going through. I got it. I totally understood. But I told her, I said, God is trying to take you to another level. But you haven't moved off the level that you at. He might not be in the elevator with you, but the door is wide open and you're looking and pointing at him. It's like, nah, you can't get in here. You can't get in here. You still talking. But guess what? He don't give a fuck because you still haven't left, actually. You're still accessible. You might be upset, but you're accessible. He could see you on the elevator. It don't matter that y'all not in the elevator. The point is that you're not on the rooftop, though. Y'all's on the ground level. He ain't got his ticket to get in. He hasn't done the work to get in to get up there. But guess what? Getting on that elevator and when the door closes, if you got a fear of elevator, a fear of heights, a fear of elevating and evolution, which we all do, because our biggest fear is that, damn, what if I really can have all the things that I want? But the truth is that you're going to have to let those elevator doors close so that way you can start moving up. But when you move up, you can't get out. When you move up, you can't get out. Nobody else can get in. And so you lonely. You lonely. You can't even play like I Spy because there's only these 4 walls around you. It's just you. And I told her, I said, I'm not judging. I said, this is the reason that I did the no complaining challenge, because when I did the food challenge, that was about all the physical distractions, right? But when I'm still having trouble, but I know I'm doing the things and I'm on the path of alignment, what is the disconnect? The disconnect is maybe there are some internal distractions, ones that can't nobody see. It looked like you're doing all the right things. It looked like you cut him off, but there are little things that you were doing internally that are continuing it. And she said, well, I guess you're right. She said, I guess I can't leave him alone. What did she say? She said something like that. She said, I guess I don't know how to whatever. And I said, I'm not going to tell you what to do or what to say. I said, but I'm on a no complaining challenge and I wouldn't be able to say nothing like that to myself because that has the energetic response of putting myself down. You can do it, but it's difficult and it's hard and you might need some help. You've done really great. But let's talk about, why do we throw away sometimes the work that we know better? Why do we do that? You know that unblocking him mean that he can contact you and y'all didn't find a way to get on good terms. You know that. So why did you do it? Truthfully, why did you do it? Validation. That's why we do it. We do it for validation, even if it's from someone that's toxic or someone that's hurting us. It's validation. And I said, you know better. I said, it's time for your worth of yourself to go up to match what you already know. Just because you know it don't mean that you can apply it, because you apply what you feel. You do what's natural. You do what's second nature. I said, but if he's manipulative or he's a narcissist, then you are too, because we attract what we are. I said, because you saying I responded back because I knew he wouldn't, that's you playing the game. You played the game. You gambled. You gambled. You can't gamble and be mad if you lose. You could say that you're mad that he popped up at your job, but at the end of the day, it's giving you the fix that you need because you're happy that he is still obsessing. But obsessing is not healthy, and you deserve something that's healthy. But when you on the elevator, nothing toxic or healthy can get to you. Nothing can get to you while you're on the elevator until you get to the next floor. And so you have to understand that when those doors close, yes, it might be 2 seconds where the elevator don't move yet, but once it start moving, you on the way. You on the way. Don't give him access. And so she just got quiet and she said, you ain't said one thing wrong. She said, ain't nobody else saying that. And I said, it's the little things. It's not just how you feeling. It's about setting those boundaries, not just with him, but with those around you. Somebody gossiping to you. That's why we cut that gossiping shit off. That falls in my no complaining challenge. Because what good is actually coming from this gossip? Sharing information is one thing. Having a conversation needs to be had is one thing. Getting something off your chest or expressing yourself is one thing. Acknowledging how you feel, that's one thing. But once you start repeating yourself and you saying it over and over again, now you're obsessing. Like the energy that's really involved in the complaining means I might be doing something, but I don't really believe internally that I'm doing it. Okay? So there was that. That was her response, right? So then the second young lady, she shared what was going on with her. And I did the same thing. And basically this is her letter. It says, I recently cut off all same deal. Okay. Hers says, I'm currently in a season of transition, leaning into more solitude and rediscovering myself. It's been 6 months since my breakup, and this time alone has really helped me reconnect with who I am outside of a relationship. Recently, my roommate told me she wouldn't be renewing our lease, which pushed me to finally explore something I've never done before, living alone. I found a 2-bedroom apartment that's actually cheaper than what I pay now for just my portion of our shared house, and I felt genuinely excited about creating a space that's just mine. But shortly after I signed the lease, my roommate came back and she said she might actually want to continue living together. She asked if I would consider signing the new lease together on my new spot. Now I feel torn. On one hand, I was really looking forward to having my own space for the first time ever, decorating and really making it my own. On the other hand, I travel often and the rising cost of living makes having a roommate feel like the more practical choice. I don't want to make a decision based on fear, especially fear around finances, but also I don't want to regret taking on more than I can manage. To make things more complicated, I care about my current roommate, and if I do have to have a roommate, I would prefer it be her than a stranger. I'm not sure what to do. I'm trying to honor myself while also being realistic and kind. And so this young lady, again, she checks in weekly on our calls, and she has been doing a really good job after her breakup. Like all of us have been going through things, and so she's just a little bit farther in her. She's not even it's not even post breakup at this point anymore. She's post her own new life, and I can relate. I had never lived alone before in past situations, and I do understand how important it is. And she said that she had been having trouble sleeping. She really couldn't think about anything else because she just really wanted, it was almost time to make a decision and she just didn't know what to do. And I told her, I said, well, both of your reasons are valid. I said, what about doing something short term? I said, what about doing you signing the lease and you rent a bedroom to her? And she was like, what do you mean? I said, well, you talking about decorating and doing all these things on your own and things like that. I said, but when I bought the content house, I didn't cut off my other sources of income, but I stopped pouring into them. So for example, I was still making residual income from like my digital sales, but I stopped making content related to my past business, Sexual Essentials, because I was so, it says it's overheating. Okay. My camera says that it's overheating. And I just want to make sure that it's okay. All right. So, um, she was just saying that, she wanted to decorate and different things like that. And I was telling her that, when it came to the content house, one of the things that I would do differently is that I would have continued making sexual essentials content, even if it wasn't every day or anything like that. I said it could have been once a month or whatever. I said, but because I was so invested in what I was trying to create new, I was spending money faster than I was making it. I mean, the show is called The Bankrupt Millionaire for a reason. And it wasn't intentional, and it didn't look like a problem when it was a problem. It didn't become a problem until it was a problem. And I said, if I can be honest with you, I said the one thing that I never knew about was how much it costs to like decorate a space. And I'm talking about the little things, like them little knickknacks that you see, like on them little shelves that bring it all together and really blend everything. Hell, them be the most expensive parts. That and rugs, bro. You cannot tell me that like rugs are not. I don't even know what to say. Rug prices are crazy. And I told her, I was like, so you're going to decorate this entire place and things like that. I said, but what sounds most important to you is your autonomy, being on your own. I said, and you could be on your own and all those things and rent out a room. I said, because it's her, you could let her know, like, hey, instead of signing the lease, I'm okay with renting out a room to you. And maybe you guys do 3 months, 6 months, or a year. And then if you guys decide not to renew it, and you just let her know that up front, so that way she's not caught off guard. I said, but if you rent her a room, you can let her know, hey, we don't have to share paper towels and toilet paper or internet. I'm already going to cover all those things. And this is how much I would rent a room to you for. And it preserves your autonomy. And also, I believe her roommate travels for work. So she was saying that if there was a roommate she would have, it would be her. She was telling us before, like, she's a really good roommate because she's not there all the time. So it's kind of like living together. I said, but at the same time, it does give you the autonomy and it still gives you the flexibility to make changes. I said, because if anything, the issue you're dealing with right now is that because she doesn't want to renew the lease that you guys are in, you have to move. If she moves out or y'all continue not to do that, you don't have to change anything. I said, so that's one way to preserve it. And she was like, that's really a unique way to look at it, like a reframe. She said, that's a hell of a reframe. And she was like, Samaya, I really do think that you need to do this show. And she was like, this is exactly why. She was like, I'm not saying like this was the hardest decision in the world. She was like, but you have real world examples that I didn't even consider. And she was like, I don't even think you know how much weight you just took off my shoulders. She was like, when you're coming out of a situation that really took a toll on you, as you make new decisions, you're trying to get your confidence back and you want to make the right decisions, similar to what I was saying that I was going through. And she's like, you have so many experiences that you were able to give me that like at the drop of a dime. And I told her, I said, I said, your situation reminds me of Trey, because she was saying that she wasn't sleeping and all these other things. And I said, Trey was really stressed about that icy, but it was already taken care of him before he even asked me. He just didn't know it. It was already taken care of. And so he missed out on skating most of the day because his mind was racked with something else. And I said, it's so crazy because I understand where you are. You trying to figure it out and looking at it. And even what I'm going through right now, it's already worked out, but we're stressing, we're not sleeping, our nervous system is not regulated. And so we don't know how to sit in the wait or wait for the answer. I said, because God already knew that you was going to talk to me today. You know what I'm saying? Like, he already knew. And what I got from those situations was that the bankrupt millionaire is what I've been asking God for. Before, I was creating from a space of validation. I wanted people to know how good my intentions were. I wanted them to know that all good was not lost. I wanted them to know that they could be seen, they could be heard, so many different things. I was just trying to serve, but I was doing it to the point of a fault, right? And I can acknowledge that. But the bankrupt millionaire was supposed to be about not having to be so poised, just be myself. And I'm not saying there's any, like, I'm not talking about like code switching. I'm talking about when I'm being paid to show up, how I show up is one way. There's a certain way I look. I make sure I have my makeup done. The set, like there are certain things that you do when you're being paid, right? For something or being asked to do something. I was not asked to do this. This has been put on my heart to do. But if it's also been put on my heart, that means I also have enough, right? And so I don't want it to take too much from me. But in these two people showed up. Two. What is that telling me? if nobody listens to the Bankrupt Millionaire, the few people that listen to it, one, it told me that will be enough. It told me that the people that will listen to the show are going to be asking for me to tell them what nobody else will tell them. In the midst of me trying to not mix my own personal story in there too much, because sometimes when we are still angry, still processing, the story can switch to personal. And that's the thing about complaining. People that don't want to hear complaining or excuses and all of that, they're going to exit stage left because they're not here for the drama. They're here for the help, right? And I have to understand that my wisdom is not drama. My wisdom is not drama. And sometimes my own experience will be the validation that someone else needs in their own story. It's my truth. And it's not about being upset about it or anything like that, but isn't that how I messed up the first time? I thought that I could not build a business. I thought that it was very unsafe to build a business off of a business that was built off my face. Like, to be clear, when people was like, oh, y'all know sexual essentials, that is a word, but they were talking about me. Do y'all know sexual essentials? Do y'all know Samaya? Right? That became me. So it was like, oh, this isn't, if I don't want to teach this for the rest of my life, I need to start switching something, because it's crazy to build a brand off of like me. A lot of people don't do it, but some people do, right? XO Nicole did it. She sold a business that had her name in it. A blog that had her name in it. Like, that's crazy, right? And so it's like, one of the things that I did incorrectly with the last business was thinking that I had to do more, get more, all these more to validate that I am cut out to do what God has called me to do. And if I can give you anything as the very first lesson on the Bankrupt Millionaire, is to cut that shit out. It's not about being perfect. The show might change. It might end up having segments one day. I don't know. But in both of those young ladies sharing those things with me, I saw that it took no effort for me to give them those responses. Why? Because I have a set thing that I do with them consistently. And what they needed from me was something I had already lived. I already had a lesson about it. I was able to help them because I had been through it. It didn't take very much. But their appreciation and their words to me in the, Samaya, thank you for saying that, or, oh, you put it like that. I didn't even think of it like that. Like, the person B said that I had fucked her up with the no complaining challenge. She said, damn, I'm gonna have to really go back and look at all the things that I say that are complaining, that I don't even realize. She said, and then also that reframe, she was like, I just didn't even see it that way. And I told her, I said, to be honest, it's van life and alternative living that has been doing that for me. I said, yes, my van vlog is about me being in the van. I said, that's because I have a van, but ultimately it's about alternative living. How can we change our way of thinking to get more of what we need, more of what we want in our life? And so maybe you renting out a room is not you living alone, but it is having your own autonomy, your own space. It's still your shit. And I said, and even when she move out, you could decide to Airbnb that room to make extra money when you want it. Let it be your travel money. But the point is that there are ways that we can reconfigure so you can get both if you're not sure. You could just decide to keep her as a roommate and just to pay for the decorations for the apartment, to pay off one of them rugs. You know what I'm saying? Like, she was just saying that, she was like, you literally said that shit so fast. Like, you already had the answer on the ready. And so before, I was looking for validation. I was looking for people to, not on purpose, but I was looking for a form of validation. And the thing is that I gave them some effortless responses. They were my truth. They were authentic. They were kind. I gave them steps. I did all of that, and it was effortless. And yet the validation that I got from that I wasn't even looking for, not only did I get the validation, it felt so much better because I didn't have to ask for it or anything like that, because I was just doing effortless effort. And so I asked God a question. Should I do the bankrupt millionaire? And even in this no complaining challenge, I am being confronted with the ways that I have internally distracted myself from what God is asking me to do because I'm looking to be validated that I'm enough, when Him giving it to me is already validation enough. The validation that all of us seek can be healthy, but you have to do the things that He's asking you to do. And in those moments when you're doing those things, when you're on the elevator and you're on the way up, it's not going to feel like validation. But when that elevator door opens and you go to the top, there will be people there that see you. There, whatever is at the top, it'll be where you're supposed to be. It's going to be where you're supposed to go. And so I think that we have to reframe what validation looks like for us. Figure out, are we looking for it in a toxic way or whatever? And also, I think we have to remember why we started these things. And so I say all that to say, I'm going to do the bankrupt millionaire. And I don't know what you should expect, but I know that I have things that I should share about how I've been moving through so many changes. I have like 9 lives, you guys. If you're new here, my name is Samaya, and this is my second podcast, and it is like my 4th or 5th different creation. And if you want to know more about my background and my upbringing, you can check out my first show. It's called Not Just Another Sex Podcast. It's still available, over a year worth of episodes. And that talks about my trauma and upbringing. And it focuses on how I overcame so many different things. And I recently closed a business and financially had to start over, bankrupt. And in doing so, I have found the things that I did wrong weren't what I thought they were, and I just want to share that with you guys. And so this is going to be a safe space. If you want to ever write or have me give you advice on something, please don't hesitate to do so. I'll put my email below. I'm not sure which email you guys should send it to right now, so it'll be in this summary section. And I just want effortless effort. So you won't hear me doing a lot of advertising on this. I will always let you guys know that I hope you watch the van vlog, because it is about how I created home within myself. And it shares my vlog of this lifestyle. But I won't be doing a lot here, because I found that sometimes, like, we find a clip on the internet and it'd be so good, we go looking for the information. People know how to find what they want. We don't have to do so much. People know how to find what they want. And the people that need it will find it. Just like when I asked God a question, He made sure I got the answer. So I love you guys, and welcome to the Bankrupt Mania.